So a few summers back, I got a phone call from my mother. Not unusual. I was going to be heading back to Boston for a wedding. But the real reason that she was calling was that my youngest sister, Sherry, in Manhattan, was going to be bringing her new boyfriend to the wedding. And that was a big deal, because she's, the baby. And my mom says, I think you're going to like him, Scott, because his father, he passed away about 1981, but when he was alive, he was a magazine publisher, because I worked in magazine publishing. So I was like, oh, that's really neat. Maybe I've heard of the magazine. What was it called? And she goes, I think it was called Creek or Creep. And I go, you mean CREEM Magazine? And she goes, yeah, that's it. Have you heard of it? I go, Mom, that's the magazine that turned me bad when I was 12. And of course, I mean like the good kind of bad. For those of you who aren't familiar with CREEM Magazine is like ground zero for postmodern rock journalism. In the 70s and like first half of the 80s, it was the #2 rock and roll magazine in America. Rolling Stone was #1, but they were kind of like hippy-dippy, corporate suck-up, very, like, just not edgy. And then you had like Village Voice type stuff where they'd use big words and like complex sentences. Again, very not rock and roll. But CREEM, that was like the rock and roll magazine. That's what it was called, America's only rock and roll magazine. Lester Bangs was the editor. It's where punk rock and heavy metal entered the music vernacular. That's where I learned about sarcasm. That's where I saw like my first rock and roll crushes, Wendy O. Williams of the Plasmatics and Chrissie Hynde of the Pretenders. And I learned to question authority and question my heroes equally as much. And for better or worse, from the first time I read my very first issue at the age of 12, CREEM Magazine became my blueprint for life. So yeah, I was familiar with CREEM Magazine. And then I said to my mom, yeah, in fact, I have his father's jacket hanging in a closet in my apartment. And my mom says, oh, that's nice, blah, 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 see you next week. She didn't care. So anyway, a few minutes later, my sister calls from Manhattan. She's like, hey, Scott, what's this with having JJ's father's jacket in your closet? He died like 30 years ago. I go, yeah, I know. And then I explained how the jacket came into my apartment. You see, my roommate at the time, he was from Detroit, Michigan, Royal Oaks specifically, and that's where CREEM Magazine was based, Detroit Rock City, which is why it was so edgy. And his older brother, Ribs, worked in the mailroom, and at the time that Barry Kramer died, the founder and publisher. So when JJ's mother, Connie, was getting rid of her husband's effects, Ribs was like the same size as Barry Kramer, and he was from the poor side of Detroit, couldn't afford these leather jackets that she had that were his, so she gave them to him. So 25 years later, Ribs grows up to become a hoarder on a family farm in rural Detroit. And my roommate goes back for a high school reunion, and he visits his brother, and among all this clutter of like stacked up pizza boxes and wheels and newspapers from 1977, he sees these 3 awesome leather jackets hanging on a rack. He finds out whose they were. He realizes that they're just going to gather dust, for the next 20 years. So he takes them back to LA with him. First jacket, I never saw it in person. I only saw it in photos. It was the raddest leather jacket ever. It had a diagonal cut, heavy padded leather with fringes, leather fringes on the sleeves. And it was like the type of jacket that Robert Plant, lead singer of Led Zeppelin, would wear, or Mark Bolan, lead singer of T-Rex, would wear. It was a lead singer jacket, long hair required, preferably curly. So anyway, a friend of ours who was playing guitar in the band Buckcherry, third greatest metal band ever to come from the Sunset Strip. You might know them. They had 2 big strip club classics, Lit Up, parentheses, I Like the Cocaine, and then their big follow-up, Crazy Bitch, parentheses, but I like the way she fucks me. So anyway, the guitarist went on the road, took this jacket with him to Europe, met a woman in Paris, of course, the city of love, and let her wear the jacket, never saw the woman or the jacket again. The second jacket I never saw either. Not as cool as the first one. It was more like a drummer's jacket, like a heavy padded leather jacket with some studs, spikes. It's like a motorcycle jacket meant for riding in tough, winter conditions of Detroit, Michigan. That jacket, a friend of ours went on the road with the Stones. You guys know who they are. And he was working a digital board or something like that, met a woman in a distant land, gave her the jacket to wear, never saw the woman or the jacket again. So the third jacket, I actually saw in person since it was hanging in the apartment. When I met my friend, I took over a writing gig with him. He knew I was into music journalism heavy, so he showed me the jacket. And it was not as cool as the other two. It was more like a band manager's jacket. The kind of jacket that women remember to return. It was like, just kind of a regular leather coat, kind of camel colored, practical, for like autumn in Detroit when you're not riding a motorcycle. And it didn't fit me, so it stayed in the closet. So my sister mentions it to Connie, her boyfriend's mother, and she goes, yeah, I remember ribs, and I did give him those jackets. Could you send a photo? So I took a picture. We were at that time where we were able to do that. So I took a photo, sent it to her, and she goes, yeah, that was Barry's jacket. That's so weird. And so I told my roommate, I'm like, hey, I'm going back to this wedding, and Barry Kramer's son's going to be there. Can I bring the jacket? My sister's going out with him. And he goes, yeah, absolutely. Just whatever you do, don't lose it. It's my last jacket. I'm like, yeah, no problem. This is a jacket women return. And so I meet him, and he's a cool guy. I mean, he's not what I was hoping for. I mean, I was hoping for some rock and roll dude with like long hair and mutton chops or a Fu Manchu or something. He's an attorney. But, good guy. And as the day kind of was going on, I said, do you want to see your father's jacket? And he goes, yeah, I do. And so we go into my hotel room, and it's the only thing in the closet. It's hanging up. And in the hotels, when you, those closets, they tend to have a little light on the top, so it looked like a museum piece. It's like really weird. He sees it hanging there. He's like, wow. And I go, would you like to try it on? And he goes, yeah. And so he puts it on, and he's like, man, I can feel a charge run up and down my arm. And I go, can I take a picture of you in that jacket? And he goes, yeah, please do. And I do, and his eyes are so wide. They're like freaking anime characters, And I go, dude, I want you to have that jacket. That's yours. It's his. Come on. It's a family line. So he's like, thanks, man. I go back to LA. My roommate's like, so did you show him the jacket? I said, yeah, it fit him perfectly, and I told him he could have it. And he says, dude, now he has to marry your sister, otherwise he's going to be the biggest asshole ever. And I'm like, hey, man, whatever. It's a family jacket. But anyway, cut ahead a couple years. My sister and JJ ended up getting married. They have a boy and a girl, Jackson and Sylvie, and I get to be the broke, badass, sarcastic, straight-shooting, whiskey-drinking, smoking weed on the sidewalk, rock and roll uncle of the grandchildren of CREEM Magazine. Boy, howdy!